This is a panel 2, and today's topic is looking into the current and the future of ZK knowledge, data core, and trends. So today we are happy, and on the panel we have Professor Cheng-Wu Chen, Chief Scientist Officer of BTQ, Nanak, co-founder of Holonym, and Kimi from Ethereum Foundation. So let's start a quick brief introduction about yourself and what you are doing and what you are focused on.
Hello everyone. I'm Kimi, and I work for Ethereum Foundation PSE team, and I'm working on ZK EVM project.
Hi, I'm Nanak Nihal. I'm a co-founder of Holonym Foundation, and I work on ZK engineering and protocol design and a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff there.
So, hi, I'm Cheng-Wu Chen. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at BTQ. So, we focus on developing post-quantum solutions, including ZK Snark for blockchain, mostly for blockchain applications. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the question. So the first part I would like to ask Nanak, how does Holonym build a Web3 passport with ZK technology, and how is the exciting part we can expect?
Yeah, so essentially, identity right now, everybody wants it to be the case where you bring it with you, and I think that's kind of the goal of DID. And one problem that we're really interested in solving is how do you actually make it so you can have that sort of passport where you bring it with you and do proofs when there are issues like doing flexible computations, doing programmable computations, and making sure you can always recover your account and don't lose your data. Um, so that's kind of how we conceive of the ZK passport and yeah, the problems that we're interested in solving. And yeah, so we're really interested in recovery of accounts uh, and programmable privacy.
So is there any, valuable use cases on Holonym, or can we try it now?
Sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Is there any useful use case on Holonym?
Yeah. So right now it's being used mostly for quadratic funding. So Gitcoin uses it for their quadratic funding mechanism to prove that you're a real person and not a bot. And most of our use cases have to do with Sybil resistance. We also worked with Andrew Yang's DAO, Lobby 3, for his presidential campaign in the US, making sure that donations were done on chain from real US citizens. So those are the two main use cases, Sybil resistance and proof of residency.
That's great. So okay. So the next question I would like to ask Kimi, because as far as I know, Kimi is working on the ZK EVM. So can you explain what is ZK EVM and how does it benefit for dev developer?
What is ZK EVM? Basically, we use ZK technology to re-implement EVM again. And another question is, I don't. This is a most common misunderstanding is that ZK EVM doesn't benefit any DApps in any way because we are protocol layer, and so on top of us, for user and developers, you don't feel any difference between ZK EVM or EVM. They should feel exactly the same. This is the goal of our ZK EVM, to 100% compatible with the EVM we have now. However, once ZK EVM is online someday in the future, because the way of proving or verifying a block is different, so I think the gas pricing or the storage model could be different, and that could be benefit for all the DApps. Yeah.
So we can expect zkVM as a scalable solution in the future. Okay. So next question is because we all know that ZK technology leverage the ZK proof generation pretty often. So I would like to ask Professor Chen, can you tell us what is the latest status ZK proof generation and on consumer devices and its potential market?
Yeah, I'd like to say that, well, at least my personal uh, uh, opinion is that it's still far from ideal. But today it's possible to perhaps to use some fast provers like Vol, which may produce somewhat larger proof. Uh, so as long as you don't do it on chain, then it's kind of okay. With today's computing technology, you can probably, if you want, you can do it on your smartphone, on your mobile devices. Um, but if you want to prove anything slightly more complicated, like probably a smart contract, a complicated smart contract running on zkVM, we're still far from ideal. We hope that we can run it on today's the affordable, more affordable computing devices that ideally everybody can have access to. But I don't think we're there yet. On the other hand, based on my personal experience, I feel that this is a bound. This is not necessarily a limitation per se, because it can be a driving force. For example, today there's what we call a phenomenon called dark silicon. So maybe a lot of people here, if you don't work in the semiconductor industry, you may not know that uh, even though we have the most advanced chips in our smartphone, on our latest iPhone, for example, or on our latest laptop, but most of us are not aware of the fact that most of the time, most of the circuits there, they're not acting, they're not running, they're not turned on at all. The reason is that we can now pack so many transistors, a lot of computing power, potential computing power into a small chip, but we cannot power them on at the same time because we are not able to deliver that kind of power into the chip. We are not able to dissipate the heat efficiently so that it won't burn, so that the chip won't burn. So therefore, I'm optimistic that once we have a lot of these applications, for example, there's a lot of demand. Some of these semiconductor companies, they may put proof generation and accelerators, hardware accelerator we're talking about now, into, for example, I don't know, iPhone 20 or iPhone 18. It can be part of the chip that will be turned off most of the time. But when you need to, for example, use your Holonym passport, you want to generate some proof. I think it will be possible to do it even on a smartphone a few years down the road. It all depends on the market. It all depends on the demand. That I'm optimistic about. So I guess in summary, we are far from ideal, but I'm optimistic about in the foreseeable future, we should be able to do a lot on our mobile device.
I see. Cool. So, yeah, thanks for Professor Chen. Tell us more about the limitation on hardware part. So now I would like to ask Kimi, from your view as a developer, how do you see the proof generation? What is the challenge of proof generation?
Uh, I would like to share some my point of view from algorithm side. And from last year, we saw Nova coming out, and 14 skin is the one of the hot topic of this year, and we saw Lasso coming out this middle of this year, and it leads us more close to lookup singularity. And there is another one called Benius. It just coming out a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and they on top of lasso, and they working over binary field instead of large or small fields, and they claim they have much better performance on traditional hash function like Kakak we are using. And let me think. Oh, and GKR is back. GKR is not a new thing, and we saw some benchmarks, lookup plus GKR compared to lasso. The performance is almost the same, that in the same level, and yeah, and some of the team are exploring GKR to find more possibilities. And the last one is existing one is Plunky. No matter Plunky 2 or 3, they are using Fry, small field, and verify on Snark. And all of them have their own strength. And some of them are more good at computing, some of them are more good at memory usage. So in short periods of time, I mean in the near future, I think none of them can dominate the whole space. Yeah, this is what my observations.
So, okay, I would like to add Nana. So, beyond proof generation, what is the challenging part when you building the dApp?
So for proof generation, I think right now one of the biggest challenges is memory usage, and it does depend on the proving system. So some are better than others as far as memory, and yeah, as he mentioned, Binius might be really good for that because it uses less space to represent a single bit. I also think that vol-based ZK is very promising in that regard, and also supporting Boolean circuits and doing it really quickly with low memory footprint. With identity, there's an interesting trade-off, right? So the bottlenecks that happen when you're building a dApp with identity are very different than building like a EVM, for example. So with an EVM, you're doing the proofs on a server that's very powerful, has a lot of memory, has a lot of cores. And with a dApp, though, you're limited to doing it on the user's device. So it has to work on a phone, it has to work on a laptop, it has to work on a phone that's 5 years old. And so yeah, I think the limitation there really is you have to do really small circuits and really optimize everything. Because if you try to use something general purpose, then you're often going to end up with something that's too slow for identity-related use cases. So I'd say for identity-related dApps, this is the big problem: the performance of the prover.
So, okay, last question I would like to ask Professor Chen. Since you are the expert of a post-quantum cryptographer, so what do you think about the post-quantum cryptography? Is it legit or it's a hype?
Well, I guess that's literally the $1 million question. So, well, I think again, it's my personal view is that quantum computers will be here with us. I guess the real question is how long, how much time we have before it will become the reality, and how much time we have to upgrade our infrastructure to kind of prepare ourselves for the impact. And there's no standard answer to that. I would like to think that, of course, it's kind of like the a train is running toward you, right? So you want to get prepared as soon as possible. But on the other hand, we do need to pay a price because, as far as I know, all the crypto primitives, including signatures, including ZK snarks, including pretty much everything we use today, when we move to post-quantum or quantum-resistant alternatives, typically we need to pay 10 times, at least 10 times kind of cost in terms of, typically in terms of space, typically in terms of size. For example, size of the proof or size of the signature, size of the public key, etc. And when it comes to ZK Snark, we often also need to pay a price in terms of computation. They tend to be less performant. The proof generation, both the proof generation and verification tends to take, requires a lot more computational power. Personally, I think there's a lot of work that we still need to do. So that's why we at BTQ, we devote ourselves into researching into alternative, post-quantum solutions. We want to get prepared as early as possible. But at the end of the day, I guess it's indeed the market will decide whether this is the right time. Maybe this is, we still need a few more years to kind of prepare ourselves for the transition into a post-quantum world. But I think again it's just a matter of time. Maybe if not now, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, that day will come eventually. It's just again, I guess whenever we're ready, I think it's a good time to sit down and look at all these alternatives, carefully.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, because we don't know how far we are from the post-quantum attack, but since Ethereum is kind of composed of a smart contract, so you can upgrade once the post-quantum attack happening. So before we finish the panel, I want to ask one thing. I want to ask you guys one thing for the audience to take away today about ZK knowledge.
My takeaway is I think ZK technology still have many space to explore, like hardware acceleration, algorithm, or even engineering side. So my takeaway is welcome to join us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe on a similar note, my takeaway would be just it's growing so fast. So anything that we think is difficult in ZK now, in a year, it might be easy, or at least might be possible.
Yeah, I guess my message will be similar to my fellow panelists. I think that if I can suggest one takeaway point to the audience here, I would say ZK is already here. Let's start to think about how we use them, how we can use them. What kind of new applications we can build based on this technology. In addition to the scaling solution, I think we were already seeing earlier in today's talk. For example, DeFi, for example, Holonym, the DID. I think there's a lot more applications. If you think about it, almost everything we do on Web 2 nowadays, there's an ingredient you can kind of ZK-lize. You can turn it into ZK. The opportunity is just there, and we should get started as soon as we can. Like now.
Okay, so thank you. Because time is up, and I really appreciate our panelists on their pretty valuable insights. So again, let's thanks again.